There's another question about colon screening important. I went over this in the book, in my cancer book, and it was basically a kind of book review of the book by Gilbert Welch, Should I Be Tested for Cancer? Or it may have been, Should You Be Tested for Cancer? And he's an epidemiologist and a family doctor, I believe. And his answer was no, that there's not any screening test for cancer that has actually been shown by proper science to improve the outcomes. And just to be clear, when we're talking about screening, we're not talking about somebody who's bleeding in their bowels. That's not screening. We're talking about somebody who's well, who goes and every once in a while has tests like mammograms or colonoscopies or PSAs or any of that stuff. And as far as I can see, based on the research, there's not a single example where that has actually been shown to improve the outcome. There's a lot of reasons for that, one of which, or the primary one, is you're not actually catching it early. You're just catching it earlier than if you had waited until you could feel something or see something. But the biggest reason is this misconception that the tumor is the disease. The tumor is not the disease, that which you can see and even they can remove sometimes. That's not the disease we call cancer. That is your body's attempt to localize the toxicity into a garbage can. So even though it seems like sometimes it works, because if you have less garbage because somebody removed your garbage can, you may be able to heal. In the vast majority of times, it doesn't work. And so since that's a part of the colonoscopy screening, and then they take all your polyps out and they say, we've cured you of cancer, they've done no such thing, because cancer, the illness, is not the polyps that they can see. That is a fundamental misconception of how we think about medicine, and that's the reason why those screening tests essentially don't do any good. The other thing, which is more subtle, is I would say that people who do screening end up in a kind of cancer mindset. They say that it relieves their mind when they know they don't have cancer, but it's a bit like telling somebody not to think about elephants. And the reason that inevitably what happens is they start thinking about elephants. So you're implanting in people the idea that there's this horrible disease. I'm not saying cancer isn't horrible for a lot of people, and that the only way to deal with it is to go to the doctors and have invasive or harmful procedures like x-rays, or people putting different tubes in you, and you're sort of powerless. That's the only thing you can do. And that whole mindset, in my opinion, contributes to the whole problem.